Hey guys, what is going on? This is Wrestlelamia back with another episode. With WrestleMania Backlash just 3 weeks away, what will the WWE do to get ready for its next pay-per-view? Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at the 23rd April edition of the Blue Brand, as well as the wildest wrestling news and rumors you need to know, including Chris Jericho helps a wrestler out in a big way, Mickie James responds to WWE Garbagegate, and is Snoop Dogg in the WWE Doghouse? As always, Wrestlelamia won't recap the show, but provide you with the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. The good. Back in black. It was so good to see another hype video for the return of Aleister Black, not only because the Dutch Destroyer has so much potential as a character, but because it looked like he might be future endeavored after his lengthy absence from TV, as well as his wife Zelina Vega getting released. Black is the type of character who combines a tough man style in the ring with a fierce persona that borders between the occult and the insane. Why the WWE hasn't been able to do anything productive with Black lies with creative and not Black. Let's hope the WWE finally gets things right, as Aleister could be a fantastic character in the WWE. Bayley brings it. Wrestling's golden role model has been sitting on the sidelines too long, and although it was wise that the WWE kept WrestleMania's Smackdown Women's Championship match focused on Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks, it's refreshing to see Bayley stepping up to challenge Belair for the Women's Championship. Although WWE seems to have gone back to the policy of endless rematches when a title changes hands, there's no reason the WWE can't shake things up. After all, who wants to see nothing but rematches at Backlash, besides lazy writers? Bayley is arguably the best heel in the entire women's division, and she should be able to help Belair get over as a main eventer. Banks fans need not worry, as the boss isn't going away when it comes to title matches. Teasing the fans. Tonight's brief interaction between Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns was a classic case of the WWE teasing fans and hinting at what the future holds for the Blue Brand's two top heels. The WWE Universe knows that at some point the two former Shield brothers will clash, but there's plenty of time for that to happen, and the WWE wisely isn't rushing things. This short but sweet segment with Seth and Roman is an example of one of the things that distinguishes SmackDown from Raw. Its more nuanced approach to storytelling where things aren't always rushed out. The Blue Brand has its flaws, but its storytelling is generally more sophisticated than the Red Brand, and this segment showed why. High-stakes showdown. Roman Reigns isn't making things easy for Daniel Bryan, as the leader of the Yes Movement has to put up his SmackDown career if he wants another shot at the head of the table's Universal Championship. While WWE fans are used to short-lived stipulations, the idea of having to leave SmackDown is not a pretty one. The argument that Bryan could always go to Raw can be made, but that's a creative death sentence for any superstar. Too bad Bryan didn't say this. What's particularly interesting about this setup isn't whether Daniel will win the belt, he won't, but how the WWE handles his loss. Will Bryan retire from wrestling? Will he borrow Hulk Hogan's Mr. America mask? Blame it on the rain? Seth Rollins was on fire tonight, not only continuing his feud with Cesaro by teaming with Jey Uso to try and thwart the Swiss Cyborg's dream of winning the Universal Championship, but cutting a hilarious promo on Cesaro where he blamed his WrestleMania loss to the Swiss Superman on Night 1's rain delay. Rollins' reasoning was heel 101, with Seth doing everything he could to undermine Cesaro's huge win. Cesaro's championship crisis. Pity Cesaro, a wrestler who has been on a roll as of late in singles action, including his big win at WrestleMania against Seth Rollins, and someone who seems ready to challenge Roman Reigns for SmackDown's top belt. However, just as the WWE is making fans wait for Roman and Seth to clash, it's holding off on an inevitable bout between the Swiss Superman and the Tribal Chief. While Cesaro reporters likely want to see the big man get his Universal Championship match, it's good to have him working a program with main eventer Seth Rollins, as it gives WWE a chance for Cesaro to get over even more. On paper, Cesaro has had some notable wins, but he needs a lengthy run of big wins, as fans have seen him go on a 2 or 3 month winning run only to return to putting opponents over. The Big Dog indeed. While Roman Reigns' The Big Dog nickname is a thing of the past, tonight's SmackDown emphasized that Reigns is SmackDown's top dog, whether he's on screen or merely being talked about. Reigns is the man that every WWE superstar wants to defeat, and he's been built up so well that merely wrestling his henchman Jey Uso is enough to get fans talking, although the WWE desperately needs to add at least 1 or 2 members to Reigns' entourage. Reigns is more than the top star on SmackDown, he's the sun that the other superstars revolve around. The segment with Roman, Jey Uso, Seth Rollins, Cesaro, and Daniel Bryan was great and symbolized how important Reigns is as the show's centerpiece. With Reigns working full-time as opposed to part-timer Brock Lesnar, the WWE has even more options, and for the most part, they've used Reigns well without overexposing him. The bad. No time for the women. While it's good to see WWE giving some time to its women's division on SmackDown, although did we really need another singles match between the teams of Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler and Natalya and Tamina? The WWE seems like it can't give a women's match more than 5 minutes. It's bad enough the women's division is booked poorly, although Bayley vs. Bianca shows promise, but if fans aren't given a chance to see what the female superstars can do in the ring, why should they even care? Bye-bye Bryan? Is Daniel Bryan's WWE career coming to a close? That's the question fans are asking now that Daniel is putting his SmackDown career on the line against Roman Reigns next week. With Bryan's WWE contract set to expire around this September, and Daniel talking about wanting to shift to a part-timer once his current contract ends, fans are dealing with the very real possibility that Bryan could not only be gone from the Blue brand, but the WWE. If Bryan is planning on hanging up his wrestling boots, the WWE needs to think about how it wants the beloved star to go out. It's likely that Bryan has no problem putting Reigns over with a loss in order to help elevate the Universal Champion further, but no matter how Bryan finishes his career, it shouldn't be in a hastily booked program that ends on SmackDown. No, Bryan deserves a pay-per-view level send-off that is given time to develop, maximizing any benefit for Reigns and respecting Bryan's accomplishments and contributions to WWE. The downright ugly. Nothing ugly about tonight's show. The WWE did a good job developing storylines, including Bayley challenging Bianca Belair for the SmackDown Women's Championship, Big E looking to regain the Intercontinental Championship, Seth Rollins' vendetta against Cesaro, and even the program between the Mysterios and the Alpha Academy. This is the type of show SmackDown should have put on last week in order to capitalize on airing after WrestleMania. That didn't happen, but this was a good way to lead into next week's show, which could face some tough competition from the NFL Draft. The news. Chris Jericho helps sick wrestler. Terrible news to report as former football star and WCW wrestler Steve Mongo McMichael has been diagnosed with ALS, aka Lou Gehrig's disease, a debilitating condition for which there is no cure or treatment. McMichael, who played for the Chicago Bears, including the team's Super Bowl 20 victory for many seasons, then transitioned into the wrestling world, recently revealed his diagnosis. According to Wrestling Inc.'s Sai Mohan, McMichael is already dealing with the effects of the ALS, as McMichael is reportedly paralyzed from the shoulders down, and his wife Misty feeds him and supports him with all hygiene needs. Though he is still able to walk, he will soon be fully confined to a wheelchair. Despite the bad news, there's another sign of how tight the wrestling community can be, as AEW star Chris Jericho stepped up big after a GoFundMe page was set up for Mongo's medical care. Le Champion donated $2,500 to the campaign, which has a goal of $100,000. If you'd like to donate, Wrestlelamia has a link included to the page. Mickie James responds to Garbagegate. As reported in a previous news video, Mickie James tweeted a photo of her personal belongings being returned to her from the WWE in a garbage bag, an act which outraged fans and apparently WWE management, resulting in the person responsible being fired. The WWE tweeted an apology to Mickie, but James took the apology and used it as a way to vent on the WWE. Let's see what Stephanie McMahon had to say. At Mickie James, I am embarrassed you or anyone else would be treated this way. I apologize personally and on behalf of WWE. The person responsible is no longer with our company. James replied, "Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate that, as I am equally embarrassed. I know this wasn't a malicious act, however, it did feel very symbolic to how I was presented in the last 3 years." Ouch. While James has tweeted elsewhere that she is glad for her most recent run in the WWE, it's obvious that she also feels like she could have been used much better. What do you think of Mickie's response? Be sure to let us know in the comments below. Snoop Dogg in the WWE Doghouse? Last but not least, is WWE Celebrity Hall of Famer Snoop Dogg in the WWE's Doghouse after he appeared for rival promotion All Elite Wrestling? That definitely seems to be the case, but as far as the Dogfather is concerned, he couldn't care less about what the WWE thinks. During a recent appearance on Hot 97's Ebro in the Morning podcast, Snoop talked about the WWE being hot with him for showing up on Dynamite. Wrestling News' Paul Davis summarized Snoop's assessment of the situation. Snoop said that WWE felt some kind of way too. He added that he's not a wrestler and he's bigger than that, but what happened was that since Cody Rhodes is one of the judges on TBS's Go Big show, the idea was pitched to have Snoop on AEW's show as a way to do some cross-promotion. According to Snoop Dogg, the WWE said they wanted to push pause on their business relationship, only for the WWE to contact him 2 weeks later to help hype a WWE video game, presumably WWE 2K22. At that point, Snoop told the WWE his price had doubled. While the WWE is used to pushing around its wrestlers, it apparently got a painful reminder that not everyone grovels at its figurative feet. Well guys, there you have it, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly from the 23rd April Smackdown, along with the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know in wrestling. What did you think of these stories and rumors? Be sure to leave your comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time for some more wrestling content.